All right, so who's working for the oligarchs? That should be your question. Is the bank you go to, are they in bed with the oligarchs? Does the local mechanic have anything to do with the oligarchs? Probably not. Does the fast food chain you work for, who came down with very strange edicts for their employees, are they working for the oligarch? The answer is yes. This is why there is little difference. You can walk into almost any large corporation right now, whether it's McDonald's, whether it's the auto parts store, although maybe not as direct, but a company that is well known throughout the world. Their trademark is so identifiable. Imagine if Ray Kroc were alive today and thinking to himself, how did I get involved with this? All I wanted to do was make a decent hamburger. And here we are. Thing took on a life of its own, and it's become a monster. And I'm not just talking about McDonald's. I'm talking about Amazon, obviously. I'm talking about Pfizer. Any large corporation right now that you can think of is tied to the oligarchy. And this is, by the way, to bring progressives, conservatives together. And I don't want to use Republican or Democrat. I'm going to try to get away from that, because Republican and Democrat, to me, those are teams that need to go away. They need to just take their logos, take their donors, take their infrastructure and shut it down, because they mean nothing. They mean nothing. You're either for the oligarchy, and yes, Republicans, there are a lot of Republicans that are for the oligarchy. And I would say 98% of the Democrats, supposedly the Justice Democrats, aren't, but yet they say things that would, their rules and mandates would indicate that they are in bed. They just have a different set of priorities. They're pretending that they're for, the workers or they're populists, and they're not. They're not, because they wouldn't try to be so authoritarian. They would never sign on for that. That's why libertarians can be interesting as far as what their goals are. The problem is that they end up being like controlled opposition, and nothing gets done. Your best bet is to wipe the political slate clean. I understand that these people have to run in political parties, but the political parties themselves are working for the oligarchy. That's the problem. Not the small political parties like the Green Party, although I don't know, the Greens, because of their agenda, they might be tied with the oligarchy to some degree. Maybe the Constitution Party. You'd have to go real small. You'd have to go real small and real detached for a political party to be safe, because none of them are really safe. And the question that I have for everybody is, when are we going to get together, like the left, the right, and understand that the cultural issues, look, nobody's going to agree 100% on abortion. Just, you could compromise and come up with reasonable compromises, but it's an all or nothing approach, and the clash is eternal. It will continue on forever. It may go back the other way as a reaction to the way it's been now for like 50 years, and people will freak out, and then they'll be focused on that. They'll be focused on that rather than the oligarchy, and the oligarchy will just rub their hands together and say, we've got them fighting. We got them fighting again. To teach little kids, by the way, to hate themselves because they were born a certain way with certain intrinsic characteristics, not behavior, but just intrinsic characteristics. We've heard this argument for a long time about being born a certain way. Well, now they're teaching some kids, if you're born a certain way, then you're bad. You've got no hope. No wonder why, the suicide rate is skyrocketing. Look, folks, we need to get a grip on who we're fighting. And if we could just unite around the concept that there are people in high places doing nefarious things and pulling the strings and controlling the behavior of billions of people around the planet. And if you think any of these, look, these social media companies, they may have started innocently, like everything else, like McDonald's started innocently, right? But now look at McDonald's. You look at all of these big companies, these big pharmaceutical companies are some of the most evil companies on the planet because they do not care about human life. They do not care about human beings. They care about profits. You know, Tim Pool 20 years ago, now he's got a big YouTube platform. He was down on Wall Street, right? Or 15 years ago. Don't know how long ago that was now. Occupy Wall Street. At the time, I thought, oh, here's a bunch of dirty hippies going down to, sit in their own excrement on whatever street in New York and protest, Wall Street, obviously, but protest, right? And you're thinking, what a waste of time. What are they doing? And then you realize, just kind of like the Vietnam War thing, you realize later that they were right about the 1%. Bernie Sanders was right about the 1%, except he has become the 99%. He is signed on to be part of the 99%. Donald Trump, I hate to say it because there were some things I really like about Trump, but the fact that he wouldn't drain the swamp, you could go on. You could just say, hey, Trump, maybe don't sell weapons to foreign countries for profits, for military companies that are never going to do anyone any good. Yeah, they provide some jobs and it's a short-term boost, but it's a war-based economy. And those instincts were wrong. You need to pull away from that. It's immoral. It's immoral. And see, we can't talk morality. I had this conversation with Pete Quinones, went on his podcast, and I said, hey, Pete, at a certain point, you got to recognize that this is good over here and this is bad over here. Oligarchs represent evil, demonic darkness. If you're a Christian, and look, if you don't believe in superstition, I've been down this road. Okay, you think it's all superstition and mythical. If you don't believe in good and evil, then I guess you can't grasp religion because you think everything is inherently good, but sometimes you gotta fix a few things here and there. No, there's a cloud, a darkness that's hanging over the planet right now, and the oligarchs are, again, all the oligarchs are behind the curtain, and they're the ones pulling the strings, hitting the switches, and they can hit any switch at any time. Look what happened in 2020. All of it can be traced back to the oligarchs. What we're doing now, our protocols, our flowcharts, hospitals are all tied now to oligarchs. They follow a flowchart. They don't do medicine. The CDC sends out a flowchart and they do this, this, and this. No matter who walks through the door, they wind up on a ventilator. There's no medicine being practiced. It's like if I walked in there, they would say, hey, pick up the flow chart and you can do this. You can follow the flow chart, but I don't have any medical training. You don't need it. You just follow this chart, do what it says, and the person will be in the ICU in a day or two, and that's all we can do for them. Yeah, that's not medicine. Okay, it's not medicine. And if these oligarchs are willing to see people die, because it seems as though they are okay with people dying, it really does. There's no matter how you try to say, why would they, these naive people walking around with a mask on, going down the street, beautiful sunny day, all alone, by the way. I saw this last week again, and I'm in a so-called free state, right? So you see the guy walking down the street and you're like, man, that's some powerful brainwashing, right? That is some powerful, powerful stuff. That's cultic, and I've been reading these books, got one behind me here. Getting people out of a cult is really difficult. And the oligarchs and the in-betweens, the people that, I'm in with the oligarchs, I'm going to get paid really well. Jimmy Dore was blasting Anna Kasparian and whoever else over at TYT, some other chick who's another, she's on Twitter and she's somebody important to the neoliberal crowd. And they call Jimmy a misogynist for being upset. So you can use vulgar language and you can be all sort of crazy and wild if so long as you're distracting some people away from knowing what's truly happening. But if you get over the target, then you're vulgar and misogynistic and racist and homophobic and all these things. All right. And these people, they're all taken care of. They're all like the TYT gang, they're funded. They're funded. They're not independent. So it's the audience that drives Jimmy Dore's channel, just like it's the audience that drives, say, like the conservative twins, something on the other side of the equation. My buddy Pasta, who got completely demonetized here on this wonderful platform, he told me, he said, hey, I'm trying to tell the truth and they won't let me tell the truth. Oligarchs are running the show. And oligarchs are trying to reset the entire planet. And again, let's be clear. Let's not mince. They want fewer people here. And the people who are going to remain are going to be obedient slaves to the oligarchy. And that level of slavery will get worse and worse over time. Look what they're doing right now in Australia. It's basically martial law right now in Australia, and it's really close in Canada. And the second week of August, wait 2 weeks, all right? Because that's when the schools start to go back. They're going to try to put the brakes on everything. And the kids, again, are going to be muzzled in school. I've seen pictures of kids with all this, like, stuff around their faces, wearing this 7-8 hours a day. It's not meant for that, folks. It never was. It's surgeons use them so they don't spit in the open wound, basically. That's why you do that. Or you used to do it. Now, it's some kind of cultic ritual. It's a cultural compliance ritual. I'm making everyone else feel better. No, you know what you're doing to me when I go outside and see you? It's not that I'm saying you're stupid. I'm creeped out. I'm really uncomfortable. You know, there are a lot of people that walk around, you know, I'll wear a t-shirt that says something like free speech is more important than your feelings. And people will look at it and like, oh, like you're being intentionally rude by walking around with that t-shirt. I'm like, well, you're creeping me out by wearing what you're wearing on your face. You're creeping me out. You're creeping people are supposed to see other people. The whole sand through the chain link fence analogy, I heard that was wrong. I heard it's worse than that. I heard it's even worse than that. It's 150,000 times smaller than the sand going through the chain link fence. Nobody cares. Nobody cares because once you know, hey, I'm doing my part. You're doing your part? We found out yesterday that doing your part doesn't matter. Yesterday to me was a tipping point when you look at the way the media had to start covering certain things, and even the oligarchy media. Now, I don't know how long they're gonna get into this, but the oligarchy media is gonna start to kind of nibble around the edges and start to report some stuff. Because they have to, because they're confused. And obviously the newsrooms are going to be like, okay, well, we tried this angle, we tried that angle. We can't really defend this anymore, but we can't just come out and say it's all a farce. So ask a few questions and then, you know, retreat and then wait. Maybe it'll die down, because this is what they do. Everything is in a cycle. The oligarchy says, okay, this is incremental. We hit them really hard, then we pull off, and then we hit them again. It's like a car racing down the road at 80, and then we slow it down a little bit. We roll down the windows. We give some people some fresh air, metaphorically, and then we lock it down again. It's psychological. That other video I did. It is a psych torture. It's a giant, scary, creepy, never-ending psyop. And you can feel the heaviness. You can feel the darkness. That's why I say good versus evil. So if you're more progressive than I am, and I know there are a few like the Tulsi people and some people who are probably hanging out just to hear where I'm going to go with this channel. Not a lot, but I actually gained subscribers last week. So something happened. Might have been my interview with Pete Canones, really smart guy, hardcore libertarian, but I think he's normal because he sees that, a lot of this is within his cult. I don't want to call it a cult, but within his group. Sorry, Peter. There are people that just think a narrow way, and then they look at everybody from the outside as, those are the enemy, or those are apostates, or whatever they're thinking. It's weird because I meet people and I can tell where they're coming from. I don't really care about if Austrian theory about economics. I really don't care, because right now we've got a bigger battle. It's us against the oligarchs. Pasta nailed it the other day when he was on with me. It's us against the oligarchs. It's black pill time. As much as, I'm more red pilled, I'm not blue pilled, that's for sure. But I'm red pilled, black pilled, yellow pilled, taking lots of pills. Hopefully it's going to inoculate me, protect me from what's coming. But you've got to gird up. You've got to gird up those loins, baby, because it's going to get so much worse. People don't even realize the moms and the kids going back to school. This is going to be a flashpoint, an inflection point to see what the government's going to do. If they're going to start locking people up, including children, or doing things to their parents, this is a serious concern. And there are people, I've seen people that say, hey, if you come at me, things aren't going to go well for you. All right. People have had it. They're willing to go down in flames, not doing what the oligarchs want them to do. They're willing to go down in flames because after a while, you're just pushed and pushed and pushed. You might be this calm, peace-loving person. I would consider myself kind of like that. Give peace a chance. Well, we gave peace a chance, John Lennon. We gave it a chance. And some of us are ready to do, what we need to do to protect ourselves, our families, our property, our bodily autonomy. We're ready. So as soon as we get together on this, the better and more effective we'll be if we can figure out that it's us versus them. It's the oligarchs. And I don't care if you're a Trump supporter, a Bernie supporter. I don't care if you mistakenly voted for the corpse, who is eventually going to get replaced by Kamala. I don't care. Maybe you just didn't like the rhetoric and you thought this will be better. No. This was not better. For those of you who just went off the grid, didn't vote, or voted third party, good for you. That's a principled vote. I was a bit of a chicken. But it doesn't matter really. And that's another issue. If we don't fix that problem, which, by the way, those companies that run the apparatus, the voting apparatus, all tied to the oligarchy, all of it. You just look. Your local mechanic, not tied to the oligarchy. Dominion voting machines, directly tied to the oligarchy. So there you go.